dizziness when getting out of bed, a pounding headache in the late afternoon, a growing list of pills on your kitchen counter. If you're over 60 and living in Europe or America, chances are these symptoms are not strangers to you. They creep in slowly, first as a mild discomfort, then as a daily reality that chips away at your independence. But what if high blood pressure, the silent enemy behind these troubles, could be managed naturally? No more constant worry about side effects, no more feeling like you're trapped in a cycle of medications and confusion. In this episode of Elderly Reflections, we uncover 10 natural, science-supported ways to help seniors reduce high blood pressure and feel like themselves again. From forgotten habits of the elderly in the Mediterranean to simple dietary swaps that changed lives in American retirement homes, this video isn't just about health, it's about hope. You'll hear life lessons from the elderly, insights from senior health experts, and motivational stories that prove change is possible even after 70. Because true inspiration doesn't come from prescriptions, it comes from people. If you're looking for more elderly wisdom, real-life stories, and motivation for a healthier life after 60, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Most people see a plate of leafy greens as something bland, even forgettable. But for seniors over 60, especially in Western Europe and North America, leafy greens may be one of the most overlooked tools in managing blood pressure naturally. Vegetables like spinach, kale, arugula, collards, and Swiss chard are rich in nitrates. The result? A more stable cardiovascular system and fewer dizzy spells, less heaviness in the chest, and a lighter headspace. A clinical study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that daily consumption of nitrate-rich leafy greens significantly reduced systolic blood pressure in older adults within just a few hours of ingestion. The long-term effect was even more promising. More elasticity in arteries, improved circulation, and fewer complications linked to hypertension. But beyond the research lies the real story. The quiet, resilient lives of people like Mr. Henry L., 81, from the English town of Sheffield. Once a proud train conductor with a perfectly timed stride, Henry found himself losing balance, growing foggy and taking longer to climb the stairs each morning. And the dire news. I recognized that it was the tightness in my chest, like I was wearing a vest that kept shrinking. His doctor adjusted his medications, more diuretics, higher doses, but his clarity didn't return. It wasn't until a local health volunteer introduced him to the concept of nitrate therapy through diet that Henry took a chance. With quiet determination, he began incorporating a bowl of steamed spinach into his eggs, a handful of arugula in his lunch sandwiches, and kale soup twice a week. "I didn't expect much," he said. "I was 81. I thought my body had made its choices already." But 3 months later, his blood pressure had dropped from 146/94 to 127/82. More than numbers, his morning dizziness disappeared and he began walking to the corner store again, something he hadn't done in nearly a year. His story became part of what we call elderly reflections, lessons not found in textbooks but in lived experience. If you're a senior watching this, consider this a life lesson from the elderly. The greens don't just help, they transform. And if you're wondering how to begin, start simple. Eat 1 cup of cooked leafy greens each day, or 2 cups raw. Go with spinach, kale, or arugula. Blend them into smoothies. Toss them into soups. Sauté them lightly with olive oil and garlic. This isn't about dieting. It's about honoring the wisdom your body already carries. And while leafy greens help gently open blood vessels, another powerful ally lies just underground. Rich, red, and often ignored. Beets are earthy, strange-looking, and for many not exactly the first pick at the grocery store. But if you're over 60 and fighting constant fatigue, dizziness, or blood pressure spikes, this root vegetable might be your most underestimated ally. Beets are loaded with dietary nitrates, just like leafy greens, but in even more concentrated doses. Once consumed, the nitrates convert into nitric oxide, which relaxes blood vessel walls and improves oxygen flow. A 2015 peer-reviewed study in hypertension concluded that drinking just 1 cup, 250 ml of beetroot juice daily, could lower systolic blood pressure by as much as 8 ml. But numbers are one thing. Let's talk about real life. Meet Eleanor Davis, 74, a retired music teacher from Denver. Her mornings used to begin with a mild headache that swelled as the hours passed. She described it as a curtain slowly closing on my thoughts. Her blood pressure was hovering near 160/98 despite years of medication. I felt like I was on a leash. No matter how much I tried to stay upbeat, my body wouldn't cooperate. Her granddaughter studying nutrition at UC Berkeley suggested beetroot. Eleanor resisted at first. It tastes like dirt, she laughed, but agreed to try drinking beet juice every morning. Within 10 days, her headaches began to fade. Her energy returned. 3 weeks later, she visited her physician. Her readings 132/85. It felt like someone had finally opened a window in my mind, she told us, and I could finally breathe again. Since then, she's roasted beets with rosemary, sliced them into citrus salads, and found a brand of beet juice she can tolerate with lemon. Her story echoes what we hear across the elderly reflections community. Sometimes the most powerful fixes come from the soil, not the shelf. For those ready to try, begin with 250 ml of beet juice daily, or roast half a cup of beets 3 to 4 times a week. Combine them with apple or lemon juice to soften the taste. The result for many seniors is not just lower blood pressure, but clearer thinking, calmer mornings, and a feeling of returning home to your body. And while nutrition works from the inside out, there's another fix that requires nothing but your 2 feet and a little courage. If walking were a drug, it would be the most prescribed treatment in the world. Yet for many seniors, especially after retirement, walking becomes something they do less and less, until a fall or a frightening diagnosis forces them to reconsider. The truth is, walking is not just about legs or lungs. It's about circulation, identity, and emotional power. Multiple studies, including a Harvard report in 2018, found that seniors who walked briskly for 30 to 45 minutes, 5 times a week, saw blood pressure reductions of 5 to 8 mmOH. I didn't recognize myself in the mirror, he told us. I thought, maybe this is just what getting old feels like. But his wife, Maria, pushed him. One morning, she said, "Let's walk to the stop sign." Just that far, James agreed, reluctantly. That walk became a daily ritual. At first, it was 100 feet, then 500, then a mile. Within 6 weeks, James was walking 3 miles every morning, through ocean breeze and sunlight. His blood pressure, once at 152/90, now hovered around 134/80. But more than that, he smiled again. "Walking saved my blood pressure," he said, "but it also gave me back my pride." For seniors, walking helps pump more blood with less effort. It lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, boosts endorphins, and encourages better sleep. All critical factors in blood pressure regulation. If you have joint issues, indoor walking tracks, aquatic walking in therapy pools, or even mall walking can substitute. The key is consistency, not intensity. Wear supportive shoes, keep water with you, and that perhaps is the truest lesson from this part of elderly wisdom. When people think of medicine, they often imagine pills, prescriptions, or something complicated. Few imagine something as simple and powerful as their own breath. But research increasingly shows that the way we breathe can directly affect our blood pressure. Especially for older adults, deep, slow breathing stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms the body, slows the heart rate, and reduces vascular resistance. It essentially tells your body, you're safe, you can let go. This isn't just theory, it's been proven. A 2020 study in the journal Hypertension Research found that breathing at a rate of 6 breaths per minute for 15 minutes a day significantly lowered systolic blood pressure in seniors with stage 1 hypertension. But science becomes real when it touches a real life. Meet Klaus Meyer, 77, a retired violin maker in Hamburg, Germany. Klaus spent most of his life in silence, measuring, sanding, listening. But in recent years, his blood pressure had risen steadily. He tried different medications, but they made him feel lightheaded. "I was afraid to walk too far," he said. "Afraid to fall." A nurse at his clinic introduced him to box breathing, a technique used by Navy SEALs and monks alike. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. He began practicing 3 times a day, seated near his workbench. Within 2 weeks, he felt calmer. Within 6 weeks, his readings dropped from 150/93 to 132/79. "I didn't change anything else," he said, "but somehow my whole body felt quieter." For seniors like Klaus, breathing became more than a health tip. It became a tool for reclaiming control. For those listening, start small. 5 minutes a day. Try before breakfast or before bed. Use an app or just count in your head. Breathe in 4, hold 4, out 4, hold 4. The beauty is in its simplicity and its ability to give you back a sense of calm in a world that rarely slows down. If breath is invisible power, then flaxseed is humble power. These tiny brown or golden seeds may look insignificant, but they're one of the most potent foods for lowering blood pressure naturally, especially in seniors. Packed with alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3, fiber and lignins, natural antioxidants, flax seeds help relax blood vessels, reduce inflammation, and improve blood lipid profiles. In a groundbreaking 2013 Canadian study published in Hypertension, researchers gave hypertensive older adults 30 grams of ground flaxseed per day. After 6 months, participants had lowered their systolic blood pressure by more than 10 UMA on average, a result comparable to starting drug therapy. But the power of flaxseed comes alive when we see its effect in someone's life. Take Bernadette Rousseau, a retired baker from Lyon, France. Once known for her buttery croissants, she never gave much thought to nutrition until her pressure began climbing dangerously high. "I was dizzy every afternoon," she said. "My world tilted, and not in a romantic way." Her daughter, a nurse in Paris, suggested flaxseed. Bernadette resisted at first. "Seeds are for birds," she joked, but she agreed to try. Each morning she stirred 2 tablespoons of ground flax into her homemade yogurt. The first weeks brought no changes, but by the second month, the dizziness came less often. Her doctor, curious, ordered new labs. Her cholesterol had dropped, her pressure had dropped, her medication dose was reduced. "I didn't feel cured," she said. "I felt nourished. I felt alive." She now bakes flax into bread, sprinkles it over soup, even mixes it with warm milk at night. If you're a senior looking to try, use ground flaxseed, store it in the fridge, and aim for 1-2 tablespoons per day. It may not look like much, but those tiny seeds can hold space for a quieter heart. From seeds to sips, let's now talk about a fix that's as beautiful as it is effective. Hibiscus tea. With its rich red hue and tart floral taste, hibiscus isn't just an elegant addition to your kitchen, it's a natural blood pressure regulator with real clinical weight behind it. Hibiscus contains anthocyanins and polyphenols, plant compounds known to relax blood vessels and reduce systolic blood pressure. A landmark study from the Journal of Nutrition found that drinking 3 cups of hibiscus tea per day for 6 weeks resulted in an average systolic drop of 7 pmsg in adults with mild hypertension. But beyond the lab, hibiscus tea becomes part of ritual, memory, and healing. Just ask Lucia Moreno, 79, a widow living in the hills of Andalusia, Spain. After losing her husband to a stroke, she found her own pressure rising from stress and sorrow. "Everything felt too fast. My heart, my thoughts," she said. A neighbor brought her a basket of dried hibiscus petals and showed her how to steep them slowly. "The water turned red, like wine," Lucia remembered. She started each morning with a warm cup, sitting quietly in her courtyard, watching the sun rise over the olive trees. "It became my prayer," she said. Within weeks, her preteam improved. Her sleep deepened, her hands stopped shaking. "The tea helped," she said, but the silence helped more. For those who want to try, use 1-2 teaspoons of dried hibiscus petals, or a tea bag per cup. Steep for 5-10 minutes. Drink 2 or 3 cups daily. Avoid sweetening if possible, or add a slice of orange for balance. Hibiscus tea can also be served chilled in summer. Vibrant, healing, and quietly revolutionary for your heart. While tea heals from within, the final solution in this section reminds us of something we often forget in senior life: the power of touch. Specifically, foot reflexology, a traditional healing technique dating back thousands of years, now resurfacing in Western senior care. Reflexology is based on the idea that pressure points on the feet correspond to different organs and systems in the body. By stimulating these points, practitioners aim to restore balance, reduce stress, and encourage healing. In several small clinical studies, including research from complementary therapies in clinical practice, elderly participants who received weekly foot reflexology reported reduced systolic blood pressure and lower anxiety scores. But what matters most is how it feels. Walter Green, 85, a former high school principal from Boston, found himself in a rehab center after a fall. Isolated, anxious, and struggling with high blood pressure, he felt like a man on pause. A volunteer therapist offered weekly foot reflexology. "I laughed the first time," Walter admitted. "I thought, what are my feet going to tell you?" But after the second session, he noticed he slept better. After the third, he stopped waking in panic. After a month, his blood pressure had dropped from 158/92 to 100/83. It wasn't just the feet, he said. It was being touched, being seen. For many seniors, physical touch becomes rare. Reflexology brings it back, with dignity, care, and purpose. If you want to try it yourself, you don't need a therapist. Use a reflexology chart. Apply lotion or oil. Massage slowly with gentle circular motion. Focus on the arches, heels, and toes. 10 minutes a day can calm the nerves, settle the heart, and remind your body it still deserves care. It's not a miracle, it's maintenance. And for Walter, and many like him, it was a turning point. There are things in life that work silently in the background, unnoticed, uncelebrated, but essential. Magnesium is one of those things. Most seniors don't think about it. You can't feel it working like you do caffeine or sugar. But the truth is, magnesium is a quiet guardian of your heart and arteries. It helps your blood vessels relax, controls the electrical rhythm of your heart, and even keeps the nervous system from overreacting. And yet studies show that nearly 70% of older adults in Western countries are magnesium deficient. This isn't just a nutritional issue, it's a hidden health risk. A comprehensive meta-analysis published in Hypertension found that taking 300 and 400 milligrams of magnesium daily for 3 months could significantly lower both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. It's a subtle change, but consistent, predictable, gentle. To understand what that means, let me tell you about Leena Koskinen, a 71-year-old retired nurse from Turku, Finland. Leena had always been active and health conscious, but over time her blood pressure became more erratic. Some mornings I would wake up with cramps in my legs and my heart racing for no reason, she recalled. She had already cut salt and walked daily. Her doctor ran blood tests and found that her magnesium levels were at the low end of normal, just enough to slip under the radar. I didn't even know what magnesium really did, she said. With guidance, she began adding magnesium-rich foods, like pumpkin seeds, almonds, black beans, and cooked spinach into her daily meals. But she didn't stop there. She also began drinking natural mineral water from a local spring known for its magnesium content, and eventually took a gentle magnesium glycinate supplement at night to help with sleep. Within 6 weeks, her cramps faded, her sleep deepened, and her blood pressure settled down to 112/82, no spikes, no fog. As if my body stopped bracing against itself. If you're over 60 and feel like your blood pressure isn't responding to lifestyle changes alone, look at your magnesium intake. Try eating a handful of pumpkin seeds, some sautéed greens, or a few squares of dark chocolate with at least 70% cacao. If you supplement, always choose a bioavailable form like magnesium citrate or glycinate, and talk to your doctor first, because sometimes the fix isn't loud or revolutionary. It's quiet and already waiting inside your kitchen. Now let's leave nutrition for a moment and move into a space many of us haven't visited in years: stillness. Not the stillness of doing nothing, but the stillness of listening, of surrendering to sound. You may not think of music as a medical tool, but research increasingly shows that sound, specifically slow tempo instrumental music, can significantly lower blood pressure, reduce anxiety, and improve heart rate variability in seniors. And not just any music. We're talking about slow classical compositions, soft piano, cello, even the sound of ocean waves or wind chimes. A randomized controlled trial published in Heart found that just 30 minutes of daily exposure to calm, instrumental music could reduce systolic pressure by up to 500. But here's what the numbers don't tell you. Music doesn't just change numbers, it restores dignity, emotion, presence. That's exactly what it did for Thomas O'Leary, an 84-year-old retired school teacher and folk musician from Cork, Ireland. After a minor stroke, Thomas withdrew. He no longer played his harmonica. "I stopped listening to music because it made me remember what I lost," he confessed. But during a rehab session, a nurse played a track of cello and rain sounds while helping him stretch. "My chest loosened," he said. "I felt something open." That moment led to a habit. Every evening, Thomas would lie back, close his eyes, and listen to slow instrumental music. No words, no distractions. 3 weeks later, his blood pressure had dropped from 100, but more than that, he smiled again. "I wasn't just healing," he told me. "I was remembering." If you've never tried music therapy, begin with 15 to 30 minutes a day. Choose instrumental music, slow, non-lyrical, calming. Try Bach cello suites, Native American flute, ocean waves, or even ambient soundscapes from nature. Sit or lie down. Breathe. Let the sound guide your nervous system back into safety. You might think it's too simple to work, but simplicity is often what the aging heart understands best. As Thomas said, "You don't have to dance, just listen. That's enough." And as we reflect on the heart and its rhythms, I want to bring you to a tradition older than any research paper or supplement. The quiet magic of twilight walking. In many small towns, whether it's Italy, Ireland, or rural Vermont, you'll find elderly men and women walking slowly at dusk. Not for speed, not for calories, but for peace. These evening walks, often no more than 20-30 minutes, have been associated with lower blood pressure, improved sleep quality, and even emotional healing in the elderly. A 2023 study presented at the American Celialis Summit found that seniors who walked in the evening experienced more stable cardiovascular regulation than those who walked in the morning. But beyond the data lies something deeper, something only lived experience can explain. That's what I heard in the voice of Maureen Flanagan, 88, from County Clare. For over 40 years, Maureen walked the same 1-mile loop around her home, every evening after dinner. "I've walked through rain, snow, sun, and heartbreak," she said. After her husband died, that walk became her grief companion. "At first, I cried every step. Then I listened to the birds. Then I started noticing the light on the fields again." She never took hypertension medication. Her pressure, even now, stays around 124/78. "I think the walk listens to me," she said, smiling. Twilight walking is not about exercise. It's about gentle presence. If you're able, walk alone or with a trusted friend or pet. Take the same path. Let the rhythm of your steps match your breath. Listen to the world winding down. For seniors who may be dealing with sleep trouble, twilight walking signals the body to prepare for rest. It helps regulate melatonin. It calms the nervous system. And it reminds you that, even in age, you are still in motion, still part of the living world. So here we are. We've walked through magnesium, music, and evening steps. Each one different, yet bound by a shared truth. That healing doesn't always require force. Sometimes it just requires return. Return to rhythm, return to breath, return to noticing. And for many of us after 60, it's a form of spiritual survival. After 60, life has a different rhythm. The pace slows down, but the heart often works harder. Dizziness, fatigue, and long lists of pills become part of daily life for many seniors across Europe and America. But as we've seen through the voices and choices of people like Lena, Thomas, Maureen, and so many others, you don't have to surrender to the symptoms. Nature still speaks, the body still listens, and healing is often not about doing more, but about doing differently. From a handful of seeds to a slow walk under a fading sun, these 10 natural approaches aren't just about lowering numbers on a machine. They're about reclaiming your rhythm. They're about dignity, about feeling like yourself again. And most importantly, they remind us that elderly wisdom, the quiet, lived knowledge of decades, is still powerful medicine. If this video resonated with you, I invite you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, which of these habits could I try this week? Not to fix everything, but to feel better. Let us know your thoughts below. And just before we go, I have one simple question for you. Where are you watching from? Your answer helps us connect the dots between cultures, generations, and voices of wisdom around the world. If you found value here, because here at Elderly Reflections, you are never too old to learn something new or to teach it to someone else.